My name is Wyatt Wharton. I'm the author of the Notice of Lawful Rebellion in Australia. I served the Queen with that Notice of Lawful Rebellion on the 10th of November 2014, some 10 years, 2 months and 8 days ago. Since that time, no action has been taken by the Queen or by the monarchy through Charles. Since no action by the government has been taken, other than to do some very nasty stuff to the law in the dead of night by removing protections for whistleblowers across the world. What I'm going to show you is the Notice of Lawful Rebellion, so please bear with me for one moment, please. This is the Notice of Lawful Rebellion. As I stated, the date was the 10th of November 2014. It was served on the Queen, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Governor General of Australia, and the International Common Law Court of Justice in Brussels. Australia was seized under 61 and 62 of the Magna Carta, and there it is faithfully reproduced. That is your seizure and protection. These are the log of claims, and this is the notary's information here. What happened was she put statutory information onto a common law document. She sullied the document. However, that does not mean for a moment that that document or that instrument is not lawful. So I'm first in time. And first in time when it comes to law is very, very important. There is a gentleman by the name of Wayne Kenneth Glue in Western Australia, a former police officer and police prosecutor, has made certain claims about seizing the 3 tiers of government, etc., and he's got documentation dated 2018. He's saying that he's filed it through the court system in the United Kingdom. It has to be served on the monarch. Anyway, cutting a long story short, through Mr. Glue's mistake or omission over the past 10 years, 2 months and 8 days, the work that I did has only been publicly and acknowledged by him twice that I am aware of. I started this whole ball running because of the fact that the judicial system in 2014 was pretty bad, and it's only gotten worse. But the thing is, I was having a rough time with the courts on a family matter, and knowing that other people were going through this themselves, I decided to do something about it by putting in a Notice of Lawful Rebellion to expose them for the lies that have been told to us by alleged governments. Now, the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act of the UK and the Commonwealth, which is the 1900 Constitution, and the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act of 1901, as proclaimed and gazetted, we need to address that. The UK Commonwealth Constitution can't be seized. It's an act of the UK Parliament. But the Australian version, the 1901 proclaimed and gazetted, number one, was not properly proclaimed and gazetted, because at the time of proclamation, West Australia had not joined. So federation could not actually occur. So from a legal and law standpoint, the Constitution does not exist. And anything that they did after the proclamation is an act of fraud. So, you know, what starts in fraud ends in fraud. Fraud vitiates everything. And that was because of the political parties. And then over a period of time, Australia has been either sold off, usurped, our rights taken away by a corporate government. And I exposed all of that in the Notice of Lawful Rebellion of 2014. And that, when that seizure was done, everything was taken. The entire country was seized by me. I am the holder in due course of Australia in its entirety, regardless of what anybody else claims. Now, Mr. Glue has done quite a bit of work insofar in this area, and some of the work that he has done is to be commended. However, he does not seem to comprehend the lawful meaning of first in time. And as I said, through either his errors or omissions, deliberate or otherwise, the work that I did has only been acknowledged twice, the latest tonight, the 18th of January 2025. Now, Mr. Glue and I have had a series of talks in the past on this subject about who's first in time and what means what. Mr. Glue is holding his position, I am holding mine. But the fact of the matter remains is that I am first in time, and I've got the receipts to prove it. So I have the lawful standing. Now, I don't need to get into a argy-bargy push and shove over this issue, especially when we are at a time when we must now all start to unite, start speaking with a single voice as a collective, not only in Australia, but across the world. We cannot have divisiveness, such as what is happening between myself and Mr. Glue. And I don't like this. I am standing up for what I did. And what I did was significant towards the future of Australia. Now, it's taken 10 years of hard work. It has taken a toll on me. When I served the Queen with this Notice of Lawful Rebellion, and then served every politician in Australia who was sitting in parliaments in the state and federal level all across the country, I put a target on my back, and I did this at great personal risk to my personal safety and to the personal safety of my family. And quite seriously, the government had a go at trying to put me into prison for a number of things that were just nonsense. And I put it all down to me being targeted for what I did with the Notice of Lawful Rebellion, because it upset their little world. The British Parliament, after the Notice of Lawful Rebellion was served, within a year, they started making statutory changes to the Magna Carta. They changed Article 39. They made changes to Article 61 and repealed Article 62, because 62 is your protections. They changed 61 so that you couldn't seize anything, and Article 39 is also your lawful immunity. So they made changes, and the whistleblowing side of things. What happened in Australia at the federal level and at the state levels is that the whistleblower protections under the criminal code and the state legislation, the state equivalents around Australia, the whistleblower protections were gone. So whistleblowers do not have any legal protections. This happened in other countries as well. It happened I believe it also happened in some of the states in the United States. And whistleblowers do not have the protection that they rightly are entitled to under Magna Carta. But as I said, this whole action was completely unlawful, because you cannot change what is essentially a treaty, which is the Magna Carta, because that was a treaty between the barons and indeed the king of the time, King James. So here we are in this situation with what's going on with the fight for the lawful rebellion right now. Now, as I said, I've had to keep a low profile for the last 10 years or so because I was being targeted. But things have gotten to the point now where I must come forward, come out of the shadows, and go public with this. Mr. Glue, over the last 10 years, has been, well, since 2018, has been claiming that he has seized the 3 tiers of the Australian government and all the documents and everything like that. Now, he's welcome to say that. However, it's not exactly correct. It's not correct, because you cannot seize something that has already been lawfully seized. The notice of lawful rebellion that I put in on the Queen was broad stroke, and it meant everything because of the broad strokes. And an addendum was added to that notice of lawful rebellion as well, with further details, which I'm not going to go into because they are confidential. But my actions were on behalf of all Australians, not my own self-interests. When Mr. Glue put in his notice of lawful rebellion under 61 without the protections of 62, he was in a battle with his local council over the seizure of his property. He didn't do it on behalf of all Australians. And that in itself is telling to me. Even though I was going through hell at the time, I did it because I understood that other people were going through hell, just like me. And I decided to do something about it for everyone. Mr. Glue says that I threatened him. I know. I told him to back off and leave leave the lawful rebellion alone. And I told him to stop lying by omission of the fact that I had anything to do with it. And it was only because of these conversations today that Mr. Glue has made a video acknowledging the work that I've done for the second time in 10 years. We've had this conversation before. He tells me to grow up. He tells me, you know, he talks down to me. He still thinks he's a police officer and that he can do what he wants. Well, I'm telling you now, he can't. And I'm telling him, you can't. My standing is absolute. It is first in time at law. And as I said, we do not need the division in what's going on in the world right now. We cannot have this divisiveness in, this divisiveness or this divisiveness in Australia, especially when we are about to enter a new threshold and transform this country into something that was dreamed of prior to 1900 and is now looking like it's going to happen with the help of President Trump and the United States military. To that end, I wrote a letter to President Trump again. I have written to President Trump in the past, and I've sent the Notice of Lawful Rebellion documents and all of my receipts, copies of it, to him previously since 2016. But this is the latest letter I've sent to the President-elect. And I'm going to read it out for you now. I found it necessary to send this information to you yet again, this time via military chain of command, as I've not received any communications from either you or your staff after sending this information via other intermediaries, namely Amy Shirley, who served under Lieutenant General Mike Flynn, retired, and who asked him to forward this information to you, as well as sending it directly to your office at Mar-a-Lago. The Notice of Lawful Rebellion was signed and witnessed and sent via international registered mail to the Queen Elizabeth II, now deceased, on the 10th of November 2014, a full 1 year and 7 months before you announced your candidacy for the 2016 election. Further, every member of the Australian government state and federal, was served by email with a copy of the Notice of Lawful Rebellion on the 11th of November 2014. Since that time, the United Kingdom Parliament statutorily made changes to the Magna Carta, a wholly unlawful act and an act of treason on the people. These changes saw, as a result, changes to statutory law with regard to protections of whistleblowers worldwide, and in doing so, took away all of their protections at law. You will note that when I gave notice of the lawful rebellion that I was a qui tam invoked Commonwealth public official, that the qui tam was invoked in perpetuity, and that I gave the notice on behalf of all Australians and not just myself. As a result of the Notice of Lawful Rebellion, I was targeted by the government agencies was under such threat, I had to keep a low profile so as not to be unlawfully imprisoned. Not that the government didn't try to do this. As a matter of law, I am first in time as to the seizure of the Commonwealth of Australia under 61 and 62 of the Magna Carta. I therefore am the lawful holder in due course of Australia in its entirety. I am further entitled to reward under qui tam as a royal bounty hunter, per the common law of England. The Notice of Lawful Rebellion has been ignored by alleged authorities, including government agencies, courts, law enforcement, and indeed the monarchy themselves. I would hope you, as the President-elect, would not ignore my standing in the office as President of the United States, or your constitutional duties thereto. The Constitution of the United States, as ratified in 1789, is founded in the Magna Carta, and you have certain obligations at law thereto, as you are aware. The work and the personal risks I took have been undermined by some of my fellow Australians, some with high and moderate public profiles. I cannot and shall not continue to tolerate such usurpations by anyone, regardless of public office or public profile. As I have stated, I am the lawful holder in due course of Australia in its entirety. Regardless of your seizures as it pertains to Australia, you are not first in time. I am, insofar as the Notice of Lawful Rebellion itself. It can only be rescinded by me. Therefore, if it is your intention to seize Australia, which I believe is a publicly undisclosed territory of the United States, you or your representatives must consult with me before any further action, publicly or clandestinely, occurs. That said, I want to work with you to free Australians from systematic tyranny and to fully restore our God-given unalienable rights. I further wish to advise you that I have unwaveringly supported you and your office efforts to free America, indeed the rest of the world, of tyranny via the deep state and the corrupt pedophile elites who have, like parasites, lived off of us since time immemorial. Therefore, I respectfully put you on notice that I shall require a week-long meeting of 8 hours per day with myself and an advisor to be named to discuss the implementation of your plans for Australia and its people. That I be at such meetings to be fully read into the said plans so as to enact the plans as soon as practicable. A clearance and position to assist you fully implement said plans, should they meet my requirements, which will be discussed at the meetings. And that a discussion as to rewards under qui tam and the protection of my family, and that travel, accommodation, expenses and security shall be provided to myself and my advisor prior to the meetings. I take this opportunity to advise that I shall not rescind the Notice of Lawful Rebellion until I am satisfied of all of the conditions being met and complied with in full. I further advise that I wish to work with you. However, I will defend the Notice of Lawful Rebellion in the universal jurisdiction if need be. That's a pretty powerful letter to be sending to a president, but it tells of my position quite clearly, and it cannot be argued. And I take the same kind of attitude with Mr. Glue and with anybody else who wants to usurp the work that I have done or to try and undermine it, whether that be intentional, unintentional, or otherwise. I do not have time for this. And I do not have the time to get into back and forward arguments with people over who's right and who's wrong. Because I know I am first in time, and that is the key to the whole thing. Now, Mr. Glue apparently served the court system in the United Kingdom with this document. It's supposed to go to the monarch through the barons. Or if he did it through the parliament, it's supposed to go through, be served on the monarch. And from what I understand and what I know, I can't say that he served anything on the monarch in 2018, 4 years after I did the original. I'm not here to negotiate terms with anybody. I have a vision for Australia, even though I don't want public office. I don't seek fame or fortune. But the work that I started in 2014 hasn't finished, and it's got to be finished. And I want to be able to move on from it as quickly as I possibly can. But I need to do it in a unified way with people. When this Notice of Lawful Rebellion was initiated, it was sent out to all of the common law groups that I knew, and I asked them to share it with everybody. That didn't happen. It was being usurped right from the beginning. I don't know whether that's because of egos, probably was. It doesn't matter now. The fact of the matter is the right people have got this document. The right people are going to deal with it. And I'm going to be talking to those people. And I'll be doing everything I can for Australia and its people. As I said, I don't need fame. I don't need fortune. I just need things done so that we are free, completely free. We have all of our God-given rights, that they can't be taken away. And if that means that we become a state of the United States, so be it. But the thing is, there are going to be people who would object to that, because they do believe that the Constitution is a real thing. It's not. It's a paper. It's a piece of paper with words written on it. It was falsely proclaimed. It's fraud. Everything that starts in fraud ends in fraud. And the thing is, fraud vitiates everything. And the sooner people start to understand that Australia never actually had its own sovereignty, this is our opportunity to get it. But it has to be done by people who are willing to do the hard yards, who are willing to tell the truth straight up, not try to make a name for themselves. Another reason why I've stayed in the shadows, working quietly behind the scenes to get things done. I've worked very hard on this since 2014, and so has my advisor. The work that she did to help me has been outstanding, and I've done some work myself. We're going to change Australia. We're going to change it for the better, but we need the best and brightest to do it. And we cannot have a repeat of the situation that occurred in Canberra a couple of years ago, when there was a mass protest that saw 3.5 to 4 million people turn up in Canberra, not to have a victory, because nobody went in with a delegation to the parliament, made demands. At that particular thing, all of the different groups all got together, all started going against each other. And when the opportunity to take victory was presented, defeat was shoved down the throat of that victory, because nobody followed through. And there is one person that I take as there as being one main person to be blamed for that. He got them all there. He got them all there. And then it went by the wayside. This is why we can't have the divisiveness. This is why we have to be focused. And that's why I am focused on the goal of getting this notice of lawful rebellion through, so that, and for the Americans to be able to do something about it, because President Trump seized a lot of things with his executive orders. He took back America. He took back the Act of 1871. He freed America. He's been freeing people all over the world, and people don't realise it yet. Australia, it's our turn. But we need to know what we want, when we want it, and how we're going to get there. I'm not saying I am the absolute expert, but I do have local knowledge, and that is going to go a long way to getting what we want. And I know what I believe Australians want. There will be other Australians who will be called upon when this all happens. But I will be the person, I believe, at the forefront of what is going to be negotiated for Australia, and how we're going to achieve what's got to be achieved to free Australia and its peoples. Thank you very much for listening. Stay with it. Stay positive. Things are about to change, and they're going to change for the better. And our life in Australia is going to be so much better. Stay well. Goodbye.